it's always against yourself. Even if there's a 74-year-old punching you in the face, it's still you. It's still you versus you.
Welcome back to the Sign of Good Health podcast. Today I'm with Erick Kelly. We'll call him a movement coach. He coaches gymnastics, martial arts, capoeira, all kinds of stuff. So we can start with get it out of the way. Can you tell us about your background in martial arts and movement and all that?
Yeah, I mean, it started with dance for the most part. Like, my mom owned a dance studio for 16 years and grew up doing tap, jazz, ballet, just like everything the studio offered. And then at 5 got into Taekwondo, at 12 got into theater and performing arts and things like that, and just continued that on for another till now, another 10, 20 years. And then, let's see, when I was 16, I got a job working at an MMA gym, and they had this instructor there named Cyrus, and he taught this art form called tricking. And I'd never heard of it before. I'd competed in gymnastics in like 2 or 3 different styles and had no idea that people had been taking all this karate stuff and just turning it into acrobatics and crazy stuff. So it's kind of like all of those one-footed backflips you'll see on the street and all those people that are doing crazy ninja kicking combos in movies. Like that's the stuff that Cyrus was showing me, and training under him for the last like 5-10 years, and got another ninja on the way, taking over the world, and it's going to be a good time.
Let's talk a little bit about why the hell are we learning this stuff? Because it's like, what's the value of...
There's like no point.
Yeah,
exactly. It's just like, yeah, because, I mean, you understand this too. Like, there's martial arts that works, and then there's martial arts that is for show. And a lot of the martial arts that people practice when they're like moving through the air, all the forms, all the pumse, that's all just for show. There's a lot of that you could modify to use in a fight, but there's a reason like all MMA fighters put their hands up here and not, down here. Like, that's not, unless you're Michael Venom Page, then he doesn't count though.
Yeah.
But there's, the whole point is entertainment. Like, it's the difference between a martial art and a performing art. Like, I wouldn't use ballet to kick someone's ass, right? Like, it wouldn't happen. But I also wouldn't use boxing to entertain someone if they wanted to see a cool ninja move. Like, there's a balance and point between both of them. Like, I wouldn't use a fork to eat soup. It's the same kind of circumstance. I just, different tool for a different job. If I want to make somebody smile or make somebody really impressed or inspire somebody, do a backflip. Yeah.
Win a bar bet.
Yeah, exactly. Do a backflip. Do a ninja kick. But if you're being attacked by somebody, do not use tricking. Do not use acrobatics. Use self-defense. Use Krav. Use something that actually works. Yeah. So you could take the whole arsenal of tricking and throw it at me. Go ahead, use every tricking move ever and give me one punch.
Yep. Just a cross.
Just one cross punch, and I will own you every time. Go ahead, do your fancy backflips. Yeah. Especially since I know all the moves already, it makes it so much easier to predict.
Yeah. Well, it's all flesh and no substance.
Yeah, exactly. They'll hit you once, and then they'll fall over, and they'll have to get back up and back into setup.
Well, and Zach Ferguson is a YouTube tricking guy that kind of inspired me to actually start taking action and learning it. And he was working with Sensei Seth, and he did like a pop 360. He called it a Power Ranger kick. And he said like that could be a great thing to just intimidate somebody, be like, yeah, I'm ready, let's go. And just to diffuse the fight.
Oh yeah.
Before.
No, I had a coach one time that diffused a fight with a backflip. He's only like 5'6", 5'7", and sorry if I got your height wrong, by the way. And these guys came and were trying to pick on him. And he's like, sure, just let me warm up for a second. And he does a gainer, a swing gainer. He calls it a UFO, old breakdancing term for the gainer. And everybody was so impressed by him doing that. They were like, whoa, do that again. And he was like, oh, what are you talking about? It's just my warm-up. And he does the thing, and then they bought him a drink, and fight was over. I mean, just done.
Yeah.
Yep, no fight at all.
Okay.
Backflip, solve crimes. Saves lives.
Yeah. People get hung up on the tribalism of, it's a gymnastics move, it's capoeira, it's tricking, it's parkour.
Right.
It's, to me, and again, I'm not in one of the tribes, so I'm like, it's all the same kind of stuff, and we're just trying to look cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's very similar to like, if you were going from like the American culture to the Canadian culture. Very, very similar cultures, but there are certain politenesses or certain amounts of respect that you need to give. So if I'm in a capoeira gym and I do a move that I'm pretty sure is from, Kung Fu and Wushu, I might not say that until someone else is like, oh, what is that? Where is that from? I'm not just going to immediately boast about it in front of, all the people that are capoeira experts. Or like karate people. I'm not going to try and be all taekwondo in front of them. I'm going to try and learn their way and learn their art. Like if you go to dinner at a household of very traditional Japanese people and they all eat at the the table down low, but you're like, huh, and you pick up your bowl and you sit on a chair, like that's super disrespectful. And that's kind of how I see certain people acting when they go to different martial arts gyms or gymnastics gyms. Like sometimes it's like an open gym and that's welcome, you're supposed to be doing that. But if you're in a class for capoeira and you start whipping out tricking moves, you're an a-hole. Like you gotta be respectful to the thing you're learning. And other than that, the dogmatic thing is pretty individualized. Like Taekwondo is very into Taekwondo and doesn't really focus on anything else. And karate is very into karate and doesn't focus on anything else. And Muay Thai is probably the best example of people who just do Muay Thai, and then when they see another art form, they're like, whatever, and then they go back to Muay Thai, and that's just their whole life. So I think certain people will gravitate towards certain things, and really it's what kind of food do you like, what kind of way do you like to wake up in the morning, and that kind of you find that road on your own. So the people that find tricking are usually the people who get bored with all those other things. They tried Muay Thai and karate and gymnastics, and they were like, yeah, but where's the freedom? Where's the extra stuff? So tricking usually has the most modern hippies, I think is a good way to put it. We have the most people who are very into expressing themselves as uniquely as possible while trying to take away nothing from anyone else. Like they're not there to steal gym time or to you take the gym floor away, they trick on the grass. You take the grass away, they build a barn in the middle of the woods and put a spring floor in it. Like trickers will trick, and you can't really stop that. And that's why whenever I recommend a tricker go to another like martial arts gym or studio, don't do tricking, do their art. So that way when you come back to trick, you have all these new tools, you have all these new things to work with because you didn't spend your time practicing tricking while you should have been learning capoeira.
What advice do you have for people that want to get into tricking, gymnastics, whatever?
Don't.
So I was going to say, for those of us that aren't
Please do.
spry, invincible teenagers.
Yeah, those of us who aren't like 9 and 10 years old and watching Power Rangers all the time, I would recommend basic tutorials, specifically Kojo's Trick Lab. Is probably one of the best like tutorial sites. Not only do you have the world's top experts, but you got all the people who have actually coached tricking for a long time. They're the only people who've coached tricking because it's so young that it's only been a sport for the last 20 years or so. So these people are the only teachers to exist in tricking. Go learn from them. YouTube tutorials are fantastic. Good luck finding a teacher in your area.
So I was happy to meet you.
Yeah, right? It's kind of a rare coincidence. I think I'm the only one in Oregon, unless you count like the people who run private lessons every once in a while, because Cyrus is retired. Thanks, man. makes me more valuable with him out of the picture. There's a bunch in California. There's a ton in Utah. If you're going to like Boston or Denver, those are kind of some excellent places for trickers. But yeah, Portland is just now starting to come up in the tricking community as somewhere where people can actually get started with tricking. So we'll hold clinics every once in a while, pdxtricking.org, wink. And we'll hold seminars at different gymnastics academies or taekwondo schools or things like that. And a lot of the time it's people wanting to just find a way to play with their art. Because they already do high-level kicks, they already do high-level backflips. Now I want to do weird stuff. I want to take all my stuff that's like this and make it like this. And I want to take all of my kicks that are orthodox and make them flashy and unorthodox and mean mean nothing but fun. So it's freeing in a way. It's kind of like it's like playing with your food in a way. Yeah.
Well, that's a huge appeal for me. Is just I've always admired the level of body control it takes to do all the flashy stuff.
Yeah.
And just wanting to get to that level. And like I know Ninja Warrior, like obstacle course stuff is finally starting to get more accessible across the country.
Yep.
But I've had a hard time finding tricking people.
Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of it is oriented towards children,
Right.
Young
That's
children.
the other factor.
And that,
People willing to teach adults is so rare.
right, so, or people having equipment for adults. Like that's my biggest thing. Like you're about 6 feet, 6 something, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we don't even fit in airplanes. Like our knees just don't fit. So finding a gym where we can actually practice and spread out is very difficult. That's why a lot of the highest level trickers right now are between 5'4" and 5'10". They are like 120 to 180 pounds at the most. Like they're all a bunch of lightweights. Like I'm 6'2" and a 155 soaking wet. Like I'm a stick, and I have a very difficult time with a lot of moves, flip wise. Spin wise, just fine. Like everything wraps up very nice. You know, think about a stick. The longer the stick, the harder it is to get it flipping this way. So a lot of the shorter trickers, a lot like gymnastics, the shorter gymnasts are usually the ones that can achieve that higher level stuff on a more easy basis, just because physics is the way it is. The other thing is proportional upper body to leg ratio. So my legs, you might be able to see it with the camera, my legs are freakishly long, my hip bone's here. I think it's like 3.5 feet of leg. My femur is 25 inches. It's ridiculous. And having these big legs makes kicks look beautiful. It makes flips really freaking annoying. So I'm trying to learn a move called a double layout right now. And with my body being as long as it is, I'm gonna have to bend my knees or arch my back a little extra or do something to modify that rotation. Or I just have to gain a little bit of weight, which is hard.
Yeah, I was going to ask, because I'm 195-ish, so is there a pro to being on the bigger, taller side?
Yes, absolutely. Mass times acceleration equals force, yeah? So if you have a little bit more mass, you can therefore generate more force with less acceleration. The problem is stopping. So people don't usually hurt themselves when they're getting started or they start going. It's usually after they're moving and they try and stop suddenly. It just, their body can't handle that much force in that amount of time. So figuring out ways to elongate the amount of time to make that force dissipate. That's why you see a lot of gymnasts do like a little hop where they do a big stick where they start completely extended and then they bend into the move rather than just being like this and slamming into the ground. It's just not good for the joints.
Yeah.
So that's one of my limits actually. One of my limits, a good example would be, me not being able to gain weight. Like I changed my diet to 6,000 calories a day. I was drinking a gallon of milk a day. I was working out all the time. And the problem was me working out all the time and still doing flips. And because of that, I was, $1,200 in the hole after a month, and I had no weight gain at all. I was just 155. Have been for about 10, 15 years now. And because of that, I can't get more power in my tumbling. I can elongate my body. I can try and run faster. I can make my fast twitch muscles a little more aggressive. But until I can gain a little bit of weight, my acceleration is limited. So I can still maintain that level of acceleration if I put on 5 pounds. And now the amount of force I hit the trampoline or the floor or whatever it is with is just going to catapult me up into the air. Not only that, but I should be able to, with the larger amount of mass, maintain that through multiple skills. So you'll notice that really tiny gymnasts or really tiny athletes kind of bend and wrap themselves around themselves very quickly and just kind of just almost flexibility-based acrobatics, right? And the bigger people are going to have to use angles, use power, use some type of physics and mechanics of technique in order to create that. So you see people like Dom tricks, who's, oh man, 5'6", 5'8", and like almost 200 pounds. And he's built like a brick. And he tumbles with ridiculous amounts of power. And you can see the floor go, every time he hits it. And he's just going whip, whip, whip over and over again. And that level of mass and control, like probably according to him, he'd like want to lose a couple pounds. But those pounds are what help him produce all that force. So, you know, if anybody has like a couple extra fat cells they want to lose, like I got a syringe in the back, let's make this work. I need the weight.
Starting with like foundational skills for this, what do you think is important?
The ability to jump and lift your leg. And I'm not kidding. So many people spend every day in a chair and in a car and never actually leave the ground. Just jumping off the ground and doing basic plyometrics is going to be the best way to get the athletic ability to do almost every skill. Same with lifting your leg, because you're practicing balancing, you're practicing the control and posture you need to be able to do stuff. So just even standing and just lifting your leg like this. And how high can you lift it while maintaining a straight leg? Can you get higher? There's for the foot viewers right there. Can you maintain a straight leg without like bending this way or doing this or doing one of these or trying to hold it up with your arms? Like that ability right there is what translates to being able to hold that kick up while all this rotational inertia is pulling it back down or pulling it away from your body and you have to pull it back down. You need those muscles to be ready. Other than that, tornado kick, cartwheel, handstand, anything that gets you upside down would be a good way to start.
Probably knowing how to do like the somersault or shoulder roll stuff.
Yeah, forward rolls, basic gymnastics. Yeah, like literally going to one gymnastics class will set you up with like 5 or 6 different skills. Going to one Taekwondo class will give you like 8 or 9 different kicks. Like it'll be pretty straightforward. I'm out of breath from lifting my leg.
That's okay, I got a story.
I'm so tired.
Some time. So it was surprising to me. I was training my mom once and there was a little, you know, like those aerobic steps.
Yeah.
And she wanted to try jumping and it's like this high off
Right.
the ground. And it was such a psychological hurdle for her to do that. And it's because she hasn't done it for decades,
Right.
probably. And it was just eye-opening to me coming from...
It was 4 kids prior, but when she was jumping, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's definitely... Yeah, and working in physical therapy, I do see the use it or lose it thing. So I do think there's a lot of value in start young with whatever activity and just don't stop.
Yes.
But it's still possible if you're in your 20s, 30s, whatever.
Yes.
To get into this.
Right.
It's just knowing how to be safe and building that foundation and not having an ego.
Yes.
Because you're competing against yourself, not
yeah.
the guys on TikTok or whatever.
Right. Your ego is your opponent ultimately, because unless you're starting when you're 7, 8 years old, especially now when we got trickers in China, Japan, and the US that are starting at age 4. Like I have a student that's starting at age 4 and she's 11 now and she's a monster. She's amazing. And she's gonna be better than me in about 4 years or less. And there's nothing I can do about that. So the fight is against me and how good I can get. And thankfully, going through those fights is exactly what my student is going to face eventually. So whether my students become the best in the world or whether I become the best in the world really doesn't matter. What matters is I enjoy doing this thing. How long can I keep doing this? Because martial arts masters in the past, dance masters, people who have done their art form for the longest time usually do it up into their 70s, 80s, if they're lucky to live that long. Fred Astaire hung up his tap shoes at 80. So he was in his 70s tapping on stage with, frickin' Gene Kelly and all those other people as just an old dude, like, hey, right? Sammy Davis Jr. is another one that just, as a dancer and a performer, kept performing for his whole life.
Rolling Stones are still going.
Rolling Stones are still going. So rather than being the best singer, rock band, artist in the world, you need to be the best version of you that you want to be, because everybody else could go away and you can still have that happiness. I'm pretty sure that if the Rolling Stones didn't have crowds left, they'd still be making music.
Yeah.
Like, if they didn't have any crowds, they'd still be doing stuff. Like look at Jack White in the White Stripes. Like, he had all these fans doing all this stuff, and he's like, okay. Just goes over here and does his own, like, bebop swing thing. Like, there's a mastery to life through that all art kind of translates to. But for tricking especially, I've seen people come to me at the age of 45, 50 saying, I want to learn how to do a backflip. And one of them was a friend of mine named Rory, who, when I first met him, he was in his mid to late 40s, and he couldn't lift his leg higher than this. He was so tight from running and doing all these things that he physically could not kick higher than his knee. And then 5, 6 years later was like, hey, teach me how to do a backflip. Meanwhile, his kicks are waist level. His kicks are chest level. And in his mid 40s, when you think, oh, you can't get more flexible, you can't do this, and no, he just took his time and actually made it right. So it took about 5, 6 lessons, but yeah, I got 2 dads to do backflips. There's the only too late is too late up here. Like, I trained for black belt with a 75-year-old woman with had survived 4 different types of cancer, and her gallbladder was held together with a mesh, and she picked me to spar her all the time because I wouldn't hold back on her. Sounds terrible when I say it that way, but I just knew her limits, and I knew what she wanted. So as her training partner and as her coach, she wanted me to hit her in the head. She wanted me to, she wanted me to kick her in the legs. She just didn't want me to rupture her spleen or whatever it was, or gallbladder. Just didn't want to injure her. And that's probably the best training I could have had as an instructor or a black belt. You know, I was a spry 24, 25-year-old just ready to, hit and bang and get knocked out. And here comes this 74-year-old 4-time cancer survivor who's like, hey, don't hold back on me. You gonna knock this old lady out? No, you're gonna train wisely. And that lady punched me in the face. She hit me so freaking hard a couple of times. Like, she kicked me in the groin every once in a while. Like, I'm a big fan of Deb. I'm like, thank you. I appreciate you very much. Trained me to be a better fighter at the same time. Yeah. So yeah, it's always against yourself. Even if there's a 74-year-old punching you in the face, it's still you. It's still you versus you.
And you did start it with trickers are going to trick no matter what. So what kind of equipment is helpful, or you don't need anything, you just need some floor space or
You
grass?
don't need anything, man. You just need to flip.
And feel
Modern hippies, yeah. That's kind of how it is. I mean, grass. Grass is where most of, like, the most legendary trickers got started. My teacher got started on carpet over concrete. He just moved his couch out of the way and started practicing some ninja moves that he saw on TV. He was, I think, 16, 17 at the time when he started. 38, still going. Good job, Si. Proud of you. Spring floors are probably going to be your best friend. I'd look up cheer gyms, gymnastics gyms, circus. Every once in a while you'll find a circus gym. But there are certain, like, world headquarters for tricking, and one of them is JAM, the JAM gym down in California. Another one would be Pikes Peak Tricking, which is up in a gym in Pikes Peak, up in Colorado. I want to say Colorado Springs. And then there's a couple of other gyms around the world that are just renowned for being the tricking gyms. So Tundra is probably the number one. It's in Japan. So if you're in Japan, you're lucky. You have the best spring floor in the world. I don't really recommend martial arts gyms so much. They usually have tatami mats, kind of like these, or even worse, puzzle mats, Taekwondo school puzzle mats. And it's like maybe an inch of foam over concrete, and it just sucks to crash on. I would rather crash on grass. I'd rather be on some dirt, because it'll hurt. Like, you'll bruise from the grass, but you're not gonna break anything. And I've seen people walk and break toes on puzzle mats before. Like,
I always get afraid when I'm doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and the place has puzzle mats, and I'm like,
Yeah, no thank you. Jits and puzzle mats is not good. The Jits guys love the spring floor. When we put that in our martial arts gym, they loved being on a spring floor because they could bounce and roll each other. It was like, yeah, it was like being on a mattress. It's kind of nice.
that'd be interesting. I never tried that.
Oh, it's hilarious.
So, okay, so we went over getting started and foundation. So let's talk about the next step of evolving from learning individual moves into chaining them into like a flow.
Oh yeah, like getting an actual combo. That same guy who was practicing on carpet over concrete, Cyrus, told me a long time ago that if it's not in a combo, it's not tricking. So you can do a backflip with a fancy kick. That's just you doing a trick. But when you do a backflip with a kick, land on one foot to another backflip, that's tricking. Because just being able to do one thing has no flow to it, it has no completion to it. You might as well be jumping up and doing a toe touch like a cheerleader. Like, if you want some style, you want some movement, it needs to be in a combo. Like, it's pretty cool for you to go down and do a flare, but if you're a break dancer, you do a flare and then you do a spin up into a freeze, now you're breaking, now you're actually dancing. So that's kind of how the tricking mindset is. It's very hand in hand with breakdancing, along with our like competition system. Because if you're in a battle and you do one move, it better be 2007, because that's the only time I've seen people try and compare single moves. Is someone will go out and throw a jackknife, and then another person will go out and they'll throw a swipe knife, which is a single move, but it's just a little bit harder. And someone will throw another kick into it, and then you'll have this old school battle system. Nowadays, if you do that, you're lost. You're instantly done, because the next person will look at you doing that move and do that move in the middle of a 6-move combo with 5 twists in it. Like, you're done. So if you're getting into tricking to compete, you have to put it in combos. If you just do single moves by themselves, you're gonna be held back. But if you're just getting into tricking and you're trying to combo moves, the number one thing is go faster. Take less time in between the 2 moves, make it as close to one movement as you can. If you're going hook kick to cartwheel, it shouldn't be hook kick, pause, step, adjust my footing, and then put my hands down. It needs to be kick, cart, right away. And if you have that, and you are continuously making that faster and faster, you'll realize that you can't stop. And you have to jump and flip out of whatever it is you're doing. And this is how a lot of trickers created new moves and discovered new moves, is they would do hook, cartwheel, front flip, but because they had way too much power in their cartwheel, they did a full instead of just a regular front flip or an Arabian. And then they were like, oh, that's so crazy, I did something crazy. And then they would try and take that to the next level and put more power into it and go faster. So if you're a tricker getting started, number 1 is make it smooth. Number 2 is make it way faster. Because if you can speed it up, now you unlock more tricks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I like that question. That's a good one.
Thank you. You started to touch on it. Can you explain how a competition or battle works?
Yeah, they're usually at gatherings. So in the same way that like Comic-Con has cons, we have gatherings. In all the trickers from all over the world will come to one gym, one event, one city, and it's usually not that big. Like, it's usually between 30 to 100 people at the most. And just this last couple of years, gatherings have been getting into the 150, almost 200 people range, and that's at like Neo or OMG, Oslo Movement Gathering. That's a good one. And these competitions are extremely high level. They usually have grand prizes in the thousands of dollars, and yeah, it's nice. And when trickers go there, they're usually some of the best in the world trying to prepare certain combos that they're then going to use in battle. And every tricker has their own little strategy depending on what the competition is. Some competitions have a tournament style where it's, these 8 people compete and whoever wins fights these people and then these 2 at the top. So that you'll sometimes have to battle 2 or 3 times. Other competitions are rather than single elimination up in a tournament bracket, it would be just almost like a UFC card, where these two people are going to battle for a prize and these two people are going to battle for a prize, and it kind of goes down that way. I have my own gathering, a little advertisement for me, pdxtricking.org.
Plug at the end.
Yeah, it's good. We throw a gathering, this is our second year throwing it, and we do something called bounties, where instead of it being a battle competition, it is you versus whatever the challenge is on the piece of paper. So what it is we want your tricks. We want you to film it, we want you to post it, and we want to be linked to your badassery, and we'd like to pay you for that. So you do the trick, you post the trick, we pay you, and then you have literally just earned money tricking. So it's this fun little system where we request really fancy things, and if you can do the fancy things, we pay you for the fancy things. So that's a new kind of battle system, competition system. Yeah. If we have more than one person submit for a bounty, we're going to have to choose a winner. But
sounds like hacking world too, or like even speed running. It's like, can we glitch past this wall?
It is exactly like speed running. Yeah. So a lot of the video game community and tricking community overlap. It's nerds being nerds, right?
Yeah.
And if we can find any system that works anywhere and make it work for tricking, we're going to, because it's so new that it doesn't have anyone applying these ideas to it yet. Or if they have, they've done it and only gone this far. So now we can take that and go this far with it. And especially with a team of 5 or 6 people, you can do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But there's a battle system going around right now. It's the Road to Vertigo. So Vertigo 5, Vertigo 6. I think it's Vertigo 5. Vertigo is a gathering that is having a league of tournaments, I guess. So you go to this gathering and you compete here and you earn points, and you can go to this gathering and earn points. So whoever has the most points by the time Vertigo's gathering comes along will then earn a prize of, I think, $10,000 or something like that, just the biggest prize in tricking history. And having all these people go around to different gatherings and kind of build the community is one of the first steps to it being recognized as not only a international sport, but hopefully one day an Olympic sport. Because Taekwondo is an Olympic sport, curling is an Olympic sport. Tricking is so much cooler than both of those. And I know I'm super biased, but
yeah.
Just watching a really high-level tricking battle versus watching a gymnastics competition is a completely different vibe. Like, do you want to go see a classical concert, or do you want to go see a dubstep show? Like, it's that contrast, that big of a contrast.
That's a very good analogy.
Yeah, I mean, especially since the DJs are in the back just hyping up the crowd the whole time, yeah. So if someone is looking to compete in tricking, there are lower end gatherings where the competition level is, lower. A lot of the times you have people that aren't throwing big dubs and trips and crazy stuff. You have people throwing kicking combos to a single big move, and it's usually about 4 or 5 moves long, and you can tell they've only been tricking for like maybe 2 or 3 years, and they're just getting into battling, and this is where their passion is at. And if that's you, go do that, because that's so valuable. The experience you get at the lower level is akin to boxers' amateur days. Like, the more amateur fights you get before you go pro, the better you will be as a pro. And that's just, there's evidence behind that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I recommend if people are looking to actually compete. Okay. Yeah. So until it's an Olympic sport, you're going to have to do the gatherings and the battles.
Yeah. Like, what kind of injuries are common? And then the follow-up to that is like strength training or whatever, stretching to prevent that kind of stuff.
Mostly ankles, lack of girlfriend. If you ankles for the most part, knees are a big one. A lot of very small injuries in like the toes or the wrists or things like that. But long-term injuries can most of the time be avoided by just using proper conditioning. Most people's glutes are underdeveloped. Most people's ab muscles, especially their lower abs, are underdeveloped. And getting those to just literally wake up and do stuff will protect you from a lot of those really severe injuries like ACL and MCL tears, or anything that has to do with the hip or the groin or the ankle rolling to the side. because a lot of the muscular structure that goes into the squat, if the glutes are out and disengaged, like someone's sticking their butt out and they bend their knees, a lot of that force goes right into the front of the knee, right here into the patellar tendon, and it puts a lot of force there, especially if you're like sticking your butt out and then squatting down real low, like you're just trying to snap your knee. Like I don't see you trying to land properly. And when you squat, all those people that squat with their back arched like this, bugs me so much, because you need to have the glutes engaged in order for the quads to be fully engaged, in order for the calves to be fully engaged, and there's a muscle chain that goes down all the way into the toes. And it's, people are very ignorant of those things because our education in the public system is not that good. Like I had to learn this stuff on YouTube.
All you need is bench, deadlift, and squat, bro.
Yeah, what is this? You don't need that. You don't need any of that. My thoracic is fine. My thoracic, my Jurassic, my Cretaceous, they're all fine. Yeah, people just being silly. But yes, most injuries, main injuries, can be avoided through proper conditioning and just taking care of muscles that are underdeveloped.
Yeah.
PT would be the best way to do that. Other than
physical therapy for those.
Yeah, chiropractors. Yeah, please know what physical therapy is, guys. Would you? Please go see a physical therapist. You don't need it all the time. You need it for forever. Yeah. You just need the knowledge.
So I'll plug. So Era Westenberg with Vafa Fitness, and also Ben Patrick with the Knees Over Toes, or Athletic Truth Group. Athletic Truth Group. Both of those guys have amazing programs, and I own them both. So I practice what I preach. So and it's a lot about using the right amount of weight, our body weight, just to learn proper muscle control instead of just trying to lift as heavy as possible.
And outsourcing it to muscles that are actually developed.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's by far my favorite style of training for the weightlifting side, and then I also obviously like the martial arts and the tricking aspect is what I'm working on now. So now we'll go into plugging you.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So how would you describe your coaching style?
Wow. Heartless. I'm trying to.
As you can tell from this whole conversation.
I'm trying to be nice about it, but yeah. I describe my coaching style as direct. A lot of my favorite coaches, like I've done like 40 or 50 different sports. I listed them out one time, and my favorite coaches are the ones that never sugarcoated anything. They just told me how it was. And for a lot of people, that seems like they're being mean, or they're being...
There's a difference between being direct and being an asshole, though.
Yes, there's a big difference between me saying, hey, stop that, or you're saying, hey, stop that. Like, I'm not being mean, I'm telling you what to do. That's what you hired me for.
Like, you're not doing this right, versus like, you're fucking worthless.
You're an idiot, you're this and that. Like, no, there's no point to that. Like, if I need to point out someone's ignorance, I will point it out as an ignorance, and I'll be like, no, you just didn't know. Like, that's forgivable. It's completely forgivable.
Yeah.
But you do need to humble yourself and not think that you know everything all the time. Because I still train myself, and my biggest flaw is thinking that there's some grand idea that I need to come up. No, you need to squeeze your legs together. You need to work out more. It's a very simple thing that our ego gets so wrapped into, and my teaching style directly is to combat the ego. So if I'm going to teach you how to overcome fear, it's going to be from you calming down and being able to accept that fear as a part of what's going on. Because we're not going to change anatomy. Like, you're going to be afraid of flipping backwards, it's natural. But if you're going to get over that fear, you're going to have to take something that's this scary and eventually eat it. But you can start with this. You can start this small and build your way up to taking on more and more fear. And my teaching style is directly kind of arranged around that. With children, I'm different. Children don't really want that level of aggressiveness. What they want is for something to be fun or something to be playful.
Yeah.
And that bugs the crap out of me. I refuse to teach anyone under the age of 6 for that reason. I am not the fun teacher. I am not the teacher to make everything a game. I can, and it bores me and feels incredibly disrespectful to the art. So when I teach acrobatics, I teach it with a reverence toward the difficulty of it and the dangers of it, because it's the focus, the respect, the calmness or subjugation of the ego that actually makes you capable of doing these crazy things. Because if I just wasn't afraid of flipping, it's not like I would have all these skills immediately. I not only have to be in control of my fear response, but I also have to understand actually how to do it right. Because being able to do it right is something that comes with experience, not with just reading a book. Like I could read a whole bunch of books on martial arts, but the moment I get in a fight, it's a very different story. Right. So it's the same with acrobatics. I can read on it, I can learn about the human brain and do all this stuff, but actually applying it takes that extra bit of, calm down, you're not that amazing, you will be that amazing. So take your time and humble yourself so that way you can then handle the difficult things. Because I don't know of a child that can just be happy and giddy all the time and deal with, the fear of death. Because that's what it is. We're afraid of hurting ourselves, we're afraid of dying, we're afraid of these kinds of situations. Anything that puts us more at risk of not surviving is going to trigger that fear response. So I teach children how to get over that. And that's kind of wild. Weird.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Something that
scare children to death.
Something that should be in school.
I mean, I think meditation should be in school. Because I think meditation actually does the same thing in the nicest way possible. Is in order to sit and do nothing, you have to take all those I need to move, I need to go, I need to drink, I need to pee, I need to... No. Sit, do nothing. Yeah. And that's as much fighting your ego as anything else.
Yeah. And
yeah, I just do it the extreme way.
I do have a podcast where we talk about people are afraid of the quiet moments, and what happens is then your own brain actually gets to have its voice heard, and people are afraid of that. So we're seeking constant distractions. But,
yes.
So click another podcast after this.
Yeah, we're very afraid of that part of our brain that is constantly going and that quieting down and shutting up. And as soon as it's silent, people freak out. And when I was a child, it was very similar to that. And it was through martial arts that I understood that you could have an immense amount of conflict going on in front of you and still have nothing going on in your head. And it's kind of nice. It's kind of like when you see those videos of martial arts masters smiling and humming a tune while they're beating the crap out of 6 dudes. That's real. That's an actual thing that happens. And it's very fun, very fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens in tricking every once in a while. I'll be in the middle of a combo and I'll be like, I should have chicken for dinner or something. Meanwhile, I'm doing 3 twists and 8 skills and yeah.
You've got teachererick.com.
Yeah. teachererick.com, ERICK, because my parents couldn't decide. teachererick.com, all my scheduling's through there.
Yep, and he does do in-person stuff in
Yep.
Portland, Oregon area / he also does video stuff online.
Yep. So every once in a while I'll have someone from another state want to do a video chat and figure out their skills or something like that.
Yep. And then
I also coach cheerleading and martial arts. Oh man, 5 different types of martial arts, 3 different types of acrobatics, 4 different types of dance. If you got a video of some weird move that you want to learn, I'm your guy. Every once in a while I'll have someone come in and be like, I want to learn exactly this. And I'm like, okay, that's a triple flash kick. You can barely do a cartwheel. Let's get started. Let's backward roll. But yeah, that's kind of my favorite thing is when people come to me and they're like, I am super passionate about this move. That's usually what I do.
Yeah, and I guess one question I forgot to ask was, is it beneficial for somebody to come in with, I want to learn backflip or triple flash kick or whatever, or more just, how do you balance that with building the foundational skills?
I think all rapid growth comes from a passionate place. Because if you're not so passionate about the acrobatic thing or the ninja flip that you're not willing to work hard or you're not willing to risk anything or you're not willing to do, then you've already failed before you walked in. So I always prefer someone come in with an idea of what they want. because my least favorite thing as a teacher is deciding what you want for you. It's so stupid, because I just have to be like, okay, who are you as a person? And what is it? I have to get to know you in like 5 minutes and then make a decision that'll impact the next 4 years of your life. Like,
Yeah.
would you just figure this out on your own, please?
Yeah.
Like, I have no problem doing that, especially with like younger children. Like if they're like 8, 9 years old and no one's ever had that conversation, that's like an honor. Like I'm like, okay, well, what is it you like to do? What is it you like about that thing? And then we try and like almost psychologically break down what it is they're interested in, and then we take that and run with it. Like that 11-year-old I was talking about, her thing is whenever she comes in, she has a list of about 400 things that she wants to work on, and she picks 2 or 3. And then we really genuinely work on them, we drill them out, and then she's amazing. But she still has another 397 on her list. So she, even at 11, accepts that it's a continuous, growing, ongoing thing, and having a sit-down conversation with her about it, she'll be able to tell you that. She'll be able to say, no, I want to be able to do this for forever. Like, I want to be able to just keep tricking until I'm 95. It should be awesome. 95-year-old pumping out a flash kick.
Yeah.
That's like walk into the room like Yoda and then just pump out a ninja flip. It'd be so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's about what I had.
All right, cool.
Understand it.
We did it.
So check them out, teachererick.com and
Yep.
PDX or whatever.
PDXtricking.com.org. I should know that. I own it. Oh no. Try both.
We'll put links in the description. So.
Yes.
All right, but
Yeah. Yes.